Welcome to Dr. Amazon Podcast, the emergency support channel for FBA private label sellers. We invite top Amazon experts to share the most efficient tips and tricks for your businesses. We are trying to deliver only accurate, credible, and relevant information. My name is Vitaly Fizhniak and I am the CGO of Profit Whales. And let's get started. Today, one of the main Amazon vectors is sponsor brands, sponsor display campaigns. A lot of the sellers speak about brand registry, the brand analysis, and all this stuff, brand analytics in general. Today, we have a chance to explore what is the customer lifetime value and to go deeper into this topic. My guest is Rael Cline, CEO and co-founder at Nozzle.ai. Today we will he will just help us to understand it correctly and go deeper into this topic. So Rael, thank you for joining us today.
Brilliant, and thank you very much for having me, Vitaly.
Of course, it's a pleasure for us. So Rael, I would like to start from the beginning. Yeah, could you please tell us briefly about you, about yourself, something about your background in the case of this topic?
Yeah, sure. So I'm South African. I grew up in South Africa. I came to the UK, to London, about 2010. So I've been here ever since. Amazon's not really present in South Africa, but I got exposed to Amazon from 2010 onwards when I came to the UK. My background is more sort of data science, AI, and technology, and I really noticed quite a big gap in sort of the Amazon, let's say, technology ecosystem, where Amazon's very sort of siloed in terms of your retail data sets, in terms of your advertising data sets. The data is very good, but it's very, as I say, siloed. And so, there's a very big opportunity to using technology and sort of algorithms to unify all of these data sets and to think about how best to use, let's say, retail data sets to do a better job on the advertising side. Customer lifetime value is a prime example of this. So I created Nozzle. I co-founded Nozzle. We're about sort of 2 years old. We're a spin-out of a computer science department at University College London at UCL. So very much a DNA of AI and software creation. So our aim is very much to unify these data sets, to think of new use cases for the data sets, and to take all the sort of stress and out of your daily life using Amazon, and all powered by technology algorithms with a high level of transparency. So that's what we do. In terms of who we work with, sort of customers and things like that, quite a big spectrum, a large spectrum. So we work with a variety of agencies, vendors and sellers. And so let's say under one bucket, we've got very big agency groups. So WPP, Omnicom, IPG, for instance. So these are the largest, let's say, ad agencies. We do independent ad agencies as well, like Total Media, Amazon specialist agencies, Power Digital, Market Defense, Rocket Bike, agencies like that. And then we work directly with vendors and sellers as well. So very big CPG companies, Diageo, Reckitt Benckiser, RB, Johnson & Johnson, and smaller native Amazon brands as well, Nutrivita, Runtime, Value Meds, etc. So quite a large spectrum. I'd say possibly the sort of one segment we don't cover is if you're just starting out as a private label. Our tools rely on sort of large data sets and things like that. So, but other than that, we cover quite a large spectrum, and we operate throughout all. We're based in London mostly, but of course Amazon's global, right? And so we operate anywhere Amazon operates.
Yeah, fair enough, because we have the same situation here in the case of the understanding how to work with the AI, why the data science for now, how to work with all algorithms, because it's exactly the future. And it's not a future, I guess, it's the present time that we have now. That is the main idea.
And why Amazon is so interesting to a company like us is, when you're spending advertising budgets, you can actually tie it into an individual sale. Right. And so if you're spending on, it sounds obvious to say that, right? But if you're working on, say, Google and Facebook, it's much harder to do these things. And so when you've got the actual transaction data, when someone makes a purchase, and you've got the ad data, and you can join those things together, then it becomes a uniquely powerful proposition, both for Amazon, but also, companies, technology and AI companies like ours, to do that. It's just, you wouldn't really be able to do those things on
it's like
platforms, right?
Yeah, something like the same when you tell to customers, hey, please, maybe we'll not spend on advertising, maybe we'll invest and we will do it like correctly, because
Exactly.
all these things should be like built in the case of some systems, something like that. And in this case, I would like to go deeper on like understanding of the brand analytics that we have like inside the Amazon, like in general. Yeah, I know that you have a lot of experience in this topic. And first of all, like, and one of the main questions, and maybe our audience also have it for now, what is the customer lifetime value and how to work with it, like in general?
Yeah, absolutely. That is the fundamental question, I guess, of this podcast. So, to use a basic definition, it's the total net profit from any given customer over the period for which you have a relationship with that customer. So, typically when you're doing break-even ACoS calculations on your ad spend and things like that, you're really only thinking about their first purchase, right? And how, what does it take on the ad side for someone to make a purchase? But actually, you're missing out. You could be missing out on a whole bunch of further touch points that you have with that individual customer. So let's take a basic scenario where, stage one, a user comes in via, let's say, a sponsored product ad. They make their first purchase. And that's typically where the analysis stops, right? They made their first purchase, I have my ACoS, and that's how I make my decisions. And what we're saying is customer lifetime value will measure everything that comes afterwards as well. And so let's say, I don't know, a few months later, they make another purchase and they do a subscribe and save, right? Best case scenario. And then a few months after that, they make another purchase. And a few months after that, they make another purchase. And then at some point, possibly they churn, right? Which is to say, they stop buying from you and sort of, there's no longer a relationship. But customer lifetime value is concerned with that entire process, so all those stages, all those purchases. And what it does is, what is the total profitability of that customer of all those stages? And why that's so powerful is that it can tell you how much you can actually spend on the advertising side, for instance, to acquire a customer, right? And so we'll go into, I guess, a lot more detail on that. But I guess I just want to make it clear that it's the total net profit from any given customer over the entire period that you have a relationship with that customer. It can be used in a whole bunch of different ways. And one of the ways we would use it is determining your ad budget on an individual ASIN level or a product category level. How much can I actually spend? What is my true break-even ACoS, basically?
So it's like the main idea just to go deeper into all your marketing metrics that you have inside the Amazon and to make some your like own calculations and how exactly your indicators look like. What exactly your like business metrics do you have? Because we have the same situation with our clients when we, for example, speak in the case of the main indicator that we just track, for example, the ACoS or MACoS, or TACoS, it doesn't matter. Or for example, they have a like KPI, like the CTA, for example, that they have according to the each product inside the PPC site. So the main idea here is just to go deeper, right? And how to find these metrics, or what metrics should we track and get?
There's so many different use cases here. We still think ACoS or ROAS, which is the inverse, is a valuable metric. It's just the one that's reported by Amazon is often incorrect because it assumes somebody only buys once from you. And actually, what our tools will surface the information that says, actually, this person didn't buy once, or on average, a customer doesn't just buy once from you. On average, someone buys 1.5 times or twice or whatever it may be. And if, in the scenario where we've actually had this, where some of our customers, on average, somebody actually buys twice, which is extremely high. And what that means is you can double your break-even ACoS if that's the case. I thought I could only spend X acquiring someone to break even, but it turns out on average, someone actually buys twice, which means I can now spend double the amount of acquiring someone. And what that means with that extra budget is that I can be far more aggressive on my PPC tactics. I can outspend competitors because I have the knowledge knowing that someone doesn't just buy once from me, right? So you can gain market share and you can use these in all different ways as pretty powerful use cases. And I just maybe want to take a step back and say, why is this a powerful metric, right? Like, okay, I know that someone buys 5 times from me, and the average selling price is, and I can talk about the exact calculation. I'm happy to do that. But why should I care, basically? And two main reasons I would say is, it's easier to sell to an existing customer than to a new one, right? I mean, this is, I guess, a well sort of known idea, but this really, puts it at the forefront here, which is, existing customers are 50% more likely to try new products. They spend more with you when compared to new customers. And so it's always easier to get them to buy, if you're doing a new product launch or related product launch, or just to buy the same thing again from you. It's much easier to do that than it is trying to persuade someone who's never bought from you to go and buy from you from the first time. So that's the first reason. And the second reason is just purely a financial one. Retaining a customer is twice as impactful as acquiring in growing the bottom line, in growing overall profitability. So, focus on retention really shows up in the overall profitability of your Amazon business, much more impactful than acquiring new customers. I should also say that this metric of customer lifetime value is not suited to every single situation and every single product. I mean, clearly, if you're selling very, very high priced items, furniture, TVs, or things like that, you're going to have to wait a very long time to see if somebody purchased from you again, right? And so it's not that sort of practical. But having said that, there are some very competitive, very large categories where it is the case, right? If you're selling anything sort of grocery related, beauty related, supplements, and a whole bunch of different categories there, where actually repeat purchases is pretty reasonable to assume that people are making repeat purchases, then this becomes particularly powerful and a very big differentiator.
So you should start thinking in the case of like the customer lifetime value on the beginning. I mean that you start thinking it when you just start and launch this product. Because of course, I understand that you could track how much time like these people purchase during some period of time. That is absolutely correct. And now the main idea is just to collect and correctly to work with these customers. Do not forget, that you could provide them with some discounts, some coupon.
And also knowing, I mean, there could be things like ideas where if you know that this is sort of a top 5% customer of yours or top 10% customer of yours, because they've bought from you 5 times and all that. If you know that information about people, you can have different customer service or different tier. You sort of triage when there's an issue with a delivery or something like that. You know that this is a super valuable sort of customer, and so you can treat them differently as well, right? And that helps with the retention aspect. And so there's not just sort of how much to spend on advertising sort of use case here in acquiring a new customer, but if you actually know that, hey, this person's been flagged as a top 5% customer, then my response time in replying to them, or I'm prepared to whatever it is, to service them differently. That's also another use case from just understanding how valuable somebody actually is to you.
Yeah, fair enough. I can relate on it. Could you please tell me, for example, how to improve the customer lifetime value? What
absolutely.
is the main?
So there are quite a few ways to do this. I mean, I guess best case scenario would be trying to get them to become a subscribe and save customer, right? That sort of locks them in quite a bit. Anything you can do to push someone towards a subscribe and save is certainly going to help with that. It just reduces the friction in reordering all the time. Another way to increase your lifetime value is to increase your average order value. So, 3 for 2 offers or product bundling. Product bundling is an interesting one because Amazon in the US, I don't think it's in the UK yet, but in the US, the virtual bundling is now sort of being rolled out at scale now, which means you don't have to physically bundle things before they get to Amazon's warehouse. They can do it on your behalf. You create a new listing, 2 to 5 ASINs. And using our tools, and I'm sure there'll be others that'll be able to do this. We would be able to say, ASIN A and ASIN B were bought together 100 times in the last year, and actually they could be from the same category. There could be variations, but a lot of the time they're not. We work with a company that sells alcohol, and it's not that they're buying the same, vodka or something like that, right? They're actually buying a whiskey and a vodka, or a gin and a whiskey, or whatever it may be. And so there's 2 different categories actually that people are buying quite frequently. And so we can give them bundling ideas to increase the average order value, which obviously ultimately increases the customer lifetime value as well. So I think that's an interesting way to increase the average order value by bundling. And then the other one's more of a sort of medium to long-term way, I would say, which is more around complementary products. You can get information on what other things are they looking for, what other things are they buying. If brand analytics data would give you some guidance on this, where you can find out, when someone clicks on your product, on your ASIN, what other ASINs are they then looking at? Or when someone buys your product, what else is in the basket at the same time? Or if somebody clicks on your ASIN, doesn't buy it, and buys something else, what else are they buying? Those can all be pointers to competitors' products, of course, as well, but also complementary products, stuff that they would need in addition to yours in order to enhance the whole thing. And so depending on how much flexibility, I guess, you have in sort of the product development side, it could help guide new products to launch, which would be complementary, which means, of course, they would buy that at some point in the future or together with yours as well, increasing customer lifetime value. So I'd say those are sort of the main levers to pull to increase customer lifetime value. But I get, also just sort of taking a bit of a step back here. A couple of case studies from our side is, we found out a customer of ours was selling, it could be cough medicines or allergies and things like that. On average, people were buying 1.8 times or something. Generally speaking, for most products, the majority of people who buy from you are only going to buy once, and then there's a group of people that buy 2 or more times from you, and those are your most valuable customers, of course, and they can, out of that cohort who buy 2 or more times, they can end up buying 5, 10, 20 times from you. But we found that on average, someone was buying nearly twice, which means they can double their break-even ACoS. And so this allowed them to, be a lot more aggressive on capturing market share. So sponsored brand campaigns, DSP campaigns, demand-side platform, programmatic advertising, display campaigns, and of course sponsored products as well. But you can clearly bid a lot higher now that you've got that knowledge. And so they saw their category or their market share, I should say, increase substantially as a result of that. And yet they're still profitable. And that's kind of the key, right? It's all very well trying to just, pump a bunch of money on the advertising side in the hope that, you get some sort of dominant position in the category, but it doesn't really speak to whether you're going to be profitable. But here we're starting with profitability, saying, all right, this is how much you can afford to do that.
So here's the point. When you go inside the account, each of the Amazon sellers, they just double check exactly all indicators that they have, create and calculate this customer lifetime value. And according to that, they just start thinking as a marketing experts on what steps should be done for increasing number of sales, keeping these customers, and understand what you could provide them with. Then here you could just start invest and get a correct and clear strategies for your advertising in general, because the advertising is the final step. I suggest understand according to all these steps that you should do before.
Absolutely. We would always say, yes, we provide technology so that you can run all your ad campaigns and all that, but really it's the last step, right? You need to understand all of this stuff. But Amazon actually doesn't make it easy to calculate customer lifetime value, right? It entails a whole lot of downloads and pivot tables and Excel and all that sort of stuff. And that's why we think, of course, there's an opportunity for a company like ours to kind of automate all of that and tell you what it means, in terms of the budget allocation on the ad side, etc. But if you're going to do this manually, it is possible, right? You can go into Seller Central, you can go into the sales heading, and for instance, if you're using FBA, the Amazon Fulfilled Shipments report, if you download that and create your pivot tables, you're actually able to do that, although it's going to kind of, take up quite a lot of time and every month, etc., to do it. But it is doable. And of course, I would say, even in a manual sense, it's worthwhile doing it, because it's just such a key metric in determining so many other parts of your business, not just sort of the advertising side, but even what products to focus on. If you're making SEO investments, organic investments, which ASINs do I spend time in, improving the listing? Well, those that have very high customer lifetime values, right?
Yeah. It's like fair enough because thanks to the softwares, we now could spend not so many time to calculate all the things and to get all this data. So
Yeah, absolutely. But software aside, it is doable in a manual sense. And of course, as I said, I would really encourage people to do this in a manual sense. If people want to know how to do it, downloading the reports, I can reach out to me and I can give you a detailed sort of method how to do that with pivot tables on Excel. But it's just such a worthwhile exercise.
Yeah, that is really cool. I think that of course you should do it like manually, just to understand how what indicators you should get, how to measure like all the things and what should improve. It will be like a really cool one-time practice that you could provide and just to go inside and double check. So exactly.
I would say as well, if you're going to do that, there's always the question of how far back do I need to go, right? In order to do that, if I just download a month's worth of data, the chances of somebody buying twice in 1 month for me are pretty low. I mean, depending on what you're selling, but typically pretty low. Of course, being a sort of data company, I would say, a longer time period is better and it's more robust data sets and all those sort of things. I would say minimum 6 months, but ideally a year to go back and calculate that. And so you can really pick up, interesting patterns of behavior. I mean, we've picked up, related to lifetime value, but we've picked up cases where the first purchase that somebody makes could be a very low priced item. It could be $8 or $9 or whatever it is. So pretty low. And it's not really something you would invest a lot of ad spend in because it's really hard to break even on that on an ACOS basis. But actually we noticed that even though, that out of the people who bought this $8 or $9 item first, I think it was about 20 or 25% of the time, they would then go on to buy a much higher priced item, right? $30, $35. And again, that's a powerful tool because you know that you can afford to allocate more budget to the low priced ASIN because 20 or 25% of the time, someone's actually making a much higher value purchase further down the road. And so you can afford to spend more than your competitors on that low priced ASIN, because you know what happens after that first purchase.
Yeah, exactly. We have like the same situation like inside our profitable sales agency and the software in general. When we analyze the big data for like big our clients, we understand that, hey, here's the points where we could start improving your price, like increasing your price, and you will get more and more like customers inside according to your strategy. If you're reaching the bestseller page or something like that, but absolutely understand when it's like the right point to do it, and when it's the right point to decrease or your CPC and save all your sales. So here's like the point that extremely works. And the customer lifetime value is like one of the indicators that we also check and analyze, because it speaks in the case of the market share, it speaks in the case of the competitors that we have, like all these indicators inside.
It's much more of a strategic tool than a tactical tool, right? So you start off and you've got that number and you can figure out, well, people who first bought from me, 1 year ago, how do they compare to people who bought from me last quarter or something? Like, what does their journey look like in their first quarter? Are they spending more money than the people in their first quarter a year ago? And so that's called cohort analysis, right? And so you can start going, super in depth here. I guess we don't have enough time today to go into all those use cases, but it's typically one of the first things we'll do with our customers and say, like, actually, this is what it looks like in terms of all your ASIN portfolio. You've got, 500 ASINs. These are the categories that have the highest repeat purchases, highest lifetime values, or even the ASINs that do that. Now let's talk about how you want to reallocate your time and money in terms of the most profitable products over time. And so that could be on a category level, it could be on an individual ASIN level. How do I invest my ad budgets? How do I invest my SEO budgets as well, and time and effort, right? And so it's kind of a recalibration of everything. And so that's why, and it's the data's there. It's quite amazing to me, right? I mean, this is in some ways Amazon in a nutshell. Is that in the beginning I said that Amazon's unique because they can tie the advertising to the retail data sets, and in our view, at least, this is one of the most obvious and powerful things you can do if you can actually tie ad to retail data sets, and yet Amazon doesn't actually do that. But of course that's our opportunity, of course. But so that's I guess my view on customer lifetime value.
Yeah, terrific. Because as for me, it's really important just to know that the customer lifetime value, it's one of the most important strategic indicators that you could check and to be
Yeah.
focused on. And it's like one of the times how you could manage and to work with your business inside like this e-commerce platform. It doesn't like only for the Amazon. You could just try to work with a different e-commerce platforms just to keep in mind this indicator and to
Yeah.
do and track it correctly.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we work with customers who, for instance, might have their own .com or their own D2C websites as well, and some of the time they are measuring this already on their own D2C offering, but a lot of the time they had no idea that this was even possible on Amazon, right? And so, how do the two compare? Do people who buy from Amazon, buy more from me over time than people on the D2C things? Or we've had customers who are even investigating, do they hop across, right? Do they first come to Amazon and then go to the D2C, or the D2C and then Amazon? And so, what does the global lifetime value look like, not just the Amazon one, right? And so, as I said, I can talk for ages on all that, but it's it's powerful, and that's why we're sort of hanging our hats on this.
Yeah, great. Rael, you have mentioned that you would be glad to provide like our audience with the examples or the audit, like how to correctly do it, how to find these metrics
totally.
and how to go inside the deeper. I guess it will be like the last question for today. So could you please explain how to find you correctly, directly, what people should provide you? Like,
totally. I mean, I think in our experience, everyone's sort of a little bit different. I think the best thing to do is literally just to reach out to me, and then happy to have a chat and see, how I can help. I mean, there will be a blog post, let's say, that will kind of go through like a screenshot, like step 1, do that, step 2, do that, download this report to create this pivot table. Happy to do that. So the best way to get hold of me, firstly, my email address is probably the best thing. So rael.cline, rael.cline @Nozzle.ai, via the website, via LinkedIn, via Twitter, any of those channels. I'm very, very responsive. And I've got on our website as well, there's going to be another video on a bit more detail on sort of actual numerical examples of lifetime value. So it's going into a little bit more depth on that, and you can check that out. But in terms of literally step 1, download this report, step 2, create that pivot table. Probably easier just to reach out to me, and I can go through all that.
Great. Thank you so much, Rael, for this podcast and all the things that you just provide us with, all these ideas and benefits in the case of why and how we should use the customer lifetime value. So thank you for joining us today.
Brilliant. And thank you very much for having me, Vitaly. It's been great.
Of course. Thank you. Bye.
Excellent. Bye-bye.
And that is all for today's Dr. Amazon episode. Don't miss our future arrivals with new hot topics. Press the like, leave us a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe. We will come back to you shortly.